So now if we're talking about the middle cerebral artery, we're talking about now the so remember, the anterior cerebral artery has to do more with the lower part of the body, whereas the middle is going to be more of the upper body. So contralateral hemiplegia, same thing again, or hemiparesis, but that's going to be more in the upper body, the arm and face. And then you can have dysarthria, which is an inability to speak properly. Because a lot of times, people have had a stroke, a more severe stroke, they're going to have difficulty speaking. And then ipsilateral hemianesthesia. Okay, so ipsilateral meaning the same side, and then anesthesia is decreased sensation, or loss of sensation. And then homonymous hemianopia. Okay, so that's blindness. Like when we talk more about the visual system, is basically you talk about your visual field, and you have like a nasal. If you're talking about the right eye, you have your nasal visual field, and then your temporal visual field. So it's like what you see towards the middle side, and then what temporal would be over towards the outside. Then you talk about that on the other side of the eye. So depending on where there's a lesion, you could lose both nasal fields or both temporal fields, or nasal on one side and temporal on the other. Okay, so that's what all these terms are going to refer to. So homonymous hemianopia is blindness of nasal half of one side and then the temporal side of the other.
Can you say that again one more time?
Yeah. With the homonymous hemianopsia is blindness of nasal half of one eye and temporal half of the other eye.
What is that?
As far as what the word is here.
The nasal half of one eye and the temporal half of another eye?
Right.
Yeah, what does that mean?
That's what it's saying. Nasal, it's like if, if you're looking
Right.
forward, you're gonna, your right eye, you won't be able to see over here, and but you'll see on that side. And then on the other eye, you won't be able to see the other side. So it has to do with, it's like this. So this part of the visual field goes to both sides of the brain. So it's a system of redundancy where you have, if vision part from one eye goes to both sides of the brain. And then we'll get into more of this diagram later when we talk about the optic nerve. So then aphasia could be the inability to speak. And then if the internal carotid is also affected, then you can have monocular loss of vision. So it would be one eye, loss of vision in one eye. Everybody get all those down? So now we're left with the posterior cerebral artery. So we have contralateral homonymous hemianopia. So then it's going to be affecting the other side. And then unilateral cortical blindness. And then also have memory loss. And then unilateral will affect the third cranial nerve. The third cranial nerve is one of the, there's 3 cranial nerves that are going to do muscles of the eye. We'll talk more about that later. It's going to be 3, 4, and 6. And hemiballismus. And what that is usually unilateral. It's a violent flinging movement of the proximal arm. So proximal meaning more of this part of the arm. Okay. Upper arm, so something like this. And then if you have a more severe case, it's going to start affecting the thalamus, so then you can have sensory disturbances. So with thalamus syndrome, you can have hemiplegia. And then partial or complete loss of sensation to the opposite limb. So again, it's affecting the opposite side of the body. And then you're going to have constant severe pain in the limbs that are hemiplegic. And then again, we have a type of pain that's going to be called causalgia, which is basically a burning type of pain. Again, like I said, if you're dealing with thalamus, you're dealing with sensory types of problems. And then also it's going to be difficult to localize the pain. And then you'll have decreased sensation in things like touch, pain, and temperature. And those are going to be affecting then the limbs on the opposite side.
Can you,
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so hemiplegia, meaning paralysis on one side of the body, and then loss of sensation to the opposite limbs, and then constant severe pain in those same limbs on the ones that are paralyzed on the opposite side of the body. And then the pain that they're going to describe is going to be agonizing or deep, a burning type of pain. And that's referred to as causalgia. And then also their sensation is disturbed so that it's not going to be able to locate the pain. So it's difficult to say exactly where the pain is. And then also it's going to affect specific sensations like touch, sensation of pain, and temperature. We'll take